All right, let's get into some business here.
Welcome to Mark's
Red Rum.
Murder
Red Rum.
Mystery
Red Rum.
Monday.
On Mondays, we feature a murder mystery. And here to help us with that is Courtney, everyone. My goodness.
Yes, hi. That
right.
was a very lovely introduction. So,
What do you have for us today?
today I'm talking about Lucille Miller. Some people might know this murder, but if you're not familiar with it, I will say this, and I know that you don't like me mentioning them, but I was listening to the Criminal Podcast, and I was so taken by this story, I thought I have to do this.
Oh, I don't mind you mentioning them. I just don't feel like you have to list them at the beginning. That's
Okay. Well, the Criminal Podcast.
But this is what inspired you, so
This
that's
is what
different. That's
inspired
different.
me.
That's different.
This
Okay.
is the same podcast, Mark, that did the Crazy Eddie story.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all about illegal things that happen, and occasionally there's something that has to do with murder. But I really love this story. So the story I'm doing today is Lucille Miller. She was a Canadian-American housewife and mother who was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of her husband. And prosecutors said that her coming up with this crime was actually inspired by the film Double Indemnity.
Oh, of course. That's
Yes.
a great movie.
Which was a clause, I guess, in their life insurance policy. And so she went about to kill her husband because the couple was very much in debt. I think they were $64,000 in debt. And this all happens in the year of 1964.
This is Barbara Stanwyck you're seeing and Fred McMurray, the two stars of Double Indemnity. It's
love
a
this
really
picture.
good movie. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So
They don't look at all suspicious in that picture.
No. They're blending. They blend right in. The picture was so stunning. I had to use it. So at the time of the murder, which is 1964, Lucille Miller is just shy of her 35th birthday, and she's married to Dr. Gordon Cork. He is a dentist. They are both Seventh-day Adventists. Yes, and they have 3 children, Deborah, Guy, and Ronnie, and Deborah is pregnant with her 4th child. They move from Oregon to California because at the time, Dr. Miller, was sick of looking in people's mouths as a dentist and wanted to become a doctor.
Yeah.
So they moved to California, and Deborah, who is the eldest child, she's also the only daughter at this time, was part of the Criminal Podcast. And she talks about how as she's becoming a teenager during this time, I think she's like 12, 13, she's really growing closer to her mother and somewhat separated from her father because her father doesn't want her to become a teenager. He's having challenges with her maturation. Dr. Miller's also falling into a depression, and that's kind of hurting the household.
Maturation is a ding word. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you go down one, too? Did you already show? Yes. This is the handsome Dr. Miller. Now, that's the handsome Dr. Miller,
right.
her husband. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is the night in question. So on October 7th, 1964, Lucille Miller is with her husband, Gordon,
Right.
and he asks for hot chocolate. It's 12 o'clock at night. It's midnight. And they don't have any milk. So Lucille gets in the car to go get milk with her husband, as you would do at midnight, leaving your 3 young children. And on their way back from the store, they get into a car accident. So
Wow.
This is 12:30 on October 8th, 1964. They get into a car
Are
accident.
you driving a VW Bug?
Yeah, they are.
It just doesn't seem like a Dr. Miller kind of ride.
He also had a hot rod, which is funny you're bringing that up because I think he also had a Thunderbird
Oh, so
that one of his patients was talking about.
I see, but he
Can
took
we
the
go back
Bug.
for a second to he asked for hot chocolate?
I know.
I mean, what part of that is like, get off your ass and make your own hot chocolate?
You know
I've
what?
got
How
4
dare you?
kids to
First of
watch.
all,
He
he's a
asked for
doctor.
hot
He's
chocolate.
bringing home the.
You know, you can
What do they
do
bring
your
home,
hot
honey?
chocolate, pal.
I mean, hot chocolate or grilled cheese.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
thank you. I think you're allowed to bark out a couple of orders once in a while
Nice.
when you're working as hard as the doctor is.
well
I'm on
done,
his
my
side.
friend.
Where's my hot chocolate?
Yeah, I mean, This is all
Why are you yelling?
allegedly. So I think that this was a ploy to get him into the car. Now, he apparently took a blanket with him. He was very
Oh.
tired.
He didn't even want the hot chocolate. She's trying to get him into the car.
She shoved a bunch of sedatives into
Kim,
him.
you're
put him
already
in
on the
car.
wrong. You're on the wrong
My
team
bad.
on
Yeah,
this one.
no, it's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly, right.
Because
My
actually,
bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
one of the more important parts of this story is that in the back of the car were the milk cartons, and they were not moved. Now, she claims she got into a car accident going 35 miles an hour, hitting something, and the car exploding into flames. Now, if you're doing that, the milk's going to fall over. It's not going to be standing upright in the back of seat of the car.
So what are you suggesting then? She put the milk in later?
I'm suggesting that she stopped the car, put it into park. She had gasoline inside the car because she often ran out of gasoline, and so she used that as an accelerant. She put the car on fire and killed her husband.
I see.
Yes,
But let me. I'm sorry. This is not my area. The milk cartons you're saying would have been disturbed if they had been there before. So you're saying after the fire she put them in or not?
No, I'm saying that she claims she got into a car accident going 35 miles an hour, hit something, and the car
And
went
you're
into
saying it would have
flames.
moved the.
I'm saying that
I get it. It would have moved the
milk
cartons. So
would have
clearly she
fallen
just lit
over.
it. She just lit it on fire.
Yeah, she
Okay.
just lit it on fire.
Okay.
She had this gas in the back of her car because apparently she kept running out of gas. So she gets to a house and tells them that her husband has been in this car accident. The car's on fire. An hour and 15 minutes after the initial flames started.
Oh, well, so she made sure that he was burnt to a crisp, and then she called.
She took the scenic route to the first
Wow.
home that she could find. And she's arrested later that day. Her daughter talks about getting up in the morning, seeing police cars in the driveway, and knowing that her father was dead. Just having that
Oh, wow.
knowledge that this was her father dead. And so she goes and speaks to her mother, and the mother's ultimately arrested later that day. There's an indictment that is served on October 20th. As I mentioned, they were very much in debt, $64,000 in debt, but the life insurance policy was $125,000. So it really took care of
there it
a lot
is.
of the issues that they had. In addition to that, Lucille was having an affair with a gentleman named Arthwell Hayton. He was a lawyer. He was also a Seventh-day Adventist. His daughter was very good friends with their daughter. They were having an affair. They claimed that the affair ended months before the car accident,
Arthwell Hayton.
but Arthwell's wife died several months earlier from sedatives.
Oh.
So you're starting to see a pattern here with
Wow.
Lucille Miller.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
crazy.
really looking tough.
It's crazy. It gets even crazier. So they go to trial. Deborah, the daughter, goes to trial every day. She actually doesn't even go to school that year. She's tutored on the weekends.
To support her mom, she
to
goes.
support her mom. And if you go down just a couple, you'll
Does she
see-
maintain her mom's innocence?
So weird you ask that, because she does. In fact, she does until her mother's funeral. For her entire adult life, until the day that her mother died, she believed that her mother was innocent.
Wow.
And you know what made her? And the reason that she considered that her mom might be culpable or responsible for the death was that she found out her mother had stolen a bunch of clothes from a friend during the funeral. And it was like this culmination of things coming together.
Oh, wait a
that
minute.
really
During the funeral, she stole
she
clothes?
found out during the funeral that at the
I
time,
see. I'm sorry,
she
I
had
got it now.
stolen some clothes.
Okay.
Well, if you can steal, you can kill.
Exactly. Slippery slope.
Wow.
So if you just go down, for those watching, I have a couple pictures of the jury looking at a replication of the car. And there's also a very iconic picture. It's Lucille and her attorney, and they are framed inside of the
Tire?
burnt tire.
Wow.
And that was done by Bettman Corpus, who has a huge estate that's very well known. Actually, that Bill Gates bought, which is interesting.
Oh, wow.
But this is a very iconic picture.
The picture was taken by the guy who sold his place to Bill Gates?
Well, he sold his entire collection. His estate was sold to Bill Gates, but
I
he was
see.
a very famous journalist, photographer.
I see.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So,
well, look at you with the all the information.
well, I was particularly moved by this photo. It really sort of tells an entire story. So she's convicted very quickly. They don't believe Lucille, and she's convicted. And actually, as the verdict is read, Deborah cries out in the courtroom, and Lucille turns around and says, "We don't act like that in public." And that's the last time that the daughter speaks to the mother in the courtroom.
Wow.
And the Lucille goes to jail. This happened on March 5th, 1965. Lucille appeals the verdict. And actually, someone who we had talked about earlier during the Boston Strangler, F. Lee Bailey, is her representation in front of the Supreme Court.
Sure.
But she's ultimately still kept in jail. She's given a life sentence, but after 7 years, she's paroled. And during her time in jail, she becomes a drug lord. So this Seventh-day Adventist mother of three starts to sell drugs in prison, and her daughter is the one bringing in the drugs. It's mostly mace, but it's vodka and mace and actually Lancome makeup.
Oh, my God.
There's never been anything like this.
Wow. That's extraordinary. Oh, my God. So she really became a little bit of a drug kingpin.
She does. I mean, she really is committed to doing horrendous acts of criminal behavior. And that includes having her 14, 15-year-old daughter be her drug mule. And she talks about hiding the drugs and the vodka inside of her pea coat, the daughter does, and having to like put them in trash cans and having her mother sort of hide them in her outfit and her other places on her body.
God, there's a lot to keep track of.
I know, it's really
I have a busy week.
Yeah, I'm hiding all my
Very funny.
my vodka and mace.
Sort of the last thing that I'll mention before I wrap it up is actually there's a young reporter who leaves Vogue and moves to California because she's from California. And this young reporter begins to report on and watch this trial, and that is Joan Didion. And the essay that she writes on this story actually was really part of what propelled her into success and sort of fame. It's called Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream, and it originally appeared in the Saturday Evening Post, but it's ultimately also part of her book, Slouching Toward Bethlehem.
Yeah, we're showing it on the screen now.
Yeah, which I think was her first nonfiction book. So it's really interesting. Joan Didion wrote this essay about them and also about the San Bernardino Valley that I think wasn't really well received.
Wow.
Yeah. And ultimately...
So ultimately, yeah, go ahead.
Ultimately, she's paroled after 7 years.
Wow.
Lucille is. This is before...
Even if she was found guilty of her husband's murder.
Yes, because this was before Furman v. Georgia, where a life sentence was no parole. So she was paroled after 7 years. She was apparently a model inmate, and she dies at 56 of breast cancer. Her three kids marry, but none of them have children. Two of them are teachers. One of them is a dentist. And then the fourth little girl that she had, which some are suspect of it actually being Dr. Miller's child and not Arthwell Hayton's child. That little girl is Kimmy Kai Miller, named by the three children, which is a little weird because I'm not sure if you all have the same father. And Kimmy Kai Miller is born while Lucille's in incarceration, but dies at age 25 from lung cancer.
Well, there's a lot there to digest. Basically, it's a family drawn to crime as a result of the mother's involvement with the murder of the father.
Yes.
It's a twisted web. It's
a really interesting, I can't recommend enough looking at the story, but also the Criminal Podcast did a really incredible job.
I love it. Well, I love that you're here. There it is again, the crash site. Dr. Gordon Miller, offed by his wife. Just celebrated 8 years with Courtney. And I'll tell you, I sleep with one eye open, everybody.
Mark's Murder Mystery Monday on the Mark Thompson Show.
Never can be too careful. Girl's got a lot of ideas, if you know what I mean.
I know. I just need a car.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great.
Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped. And please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.